If you've been in business for more than a year and you haven't surpassed the $1 million mark, or if you've been in business for more than 5 years and you haven't more than 10x'd that, then you're almost definitely holding on to way too many tasks. Because what happens for a lot of entrepreneurs is that they get into the business and they start doing everything themselves, either because they think that there's nobody who could do it better than them, or at least in the beginning, they can't afford to hire somebody to really help them. And that's where a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck. And it's why so many businesses either fail to grow or they get stuck at a very low revenue level. So I'm going to give you 3 simple things that you could do to make it perfectly clear in your head what tasks that if you let them go will result in more growth and most likely more bottom line profit for your business. The very first thing is an exercise that we do with every single leader inside of my companies, and every person that we do this with increases their productivity and increases their focus and becomes a significantly better and more effective leader. So this will work for you. Plus, if you have leaders inside of your company, this is a great exercise to have them go through as well. And it's literally this. It's working less. And let me explain this because it goes against the grain for most entrepreneurs. When I very first started in business, I used to work 16 plus hours a day, which meant that I was sometimes sleeping in my office, so I didn't have to waste time driving to and from work. And during the very first decade of my life, when I was working the absolute most, I was also making the least amount of money. And I felt kind of like George Jetson running on the treadmill, for anybody old enough to remember who George Jetson is. And I almost burned out several times. And I remember sitting in my office one day in front of my computer and thinking about taking a vacation. And I was searching for the absolute cheapest places that I could take a vacation because, to be quite honest, I just didn't have that much money, right? And I remember finding a flight that was round trip to Puerto Rico for less than $100. And I also found a super cheap hotel, and the reviews that I read everywhere said that how easy it is and how cheap it is to eat when I'm out there. So I was sold. And before the end of that day, I booked that flight and I was scheduled to leave in about 2 weeks. And after I booked it, I felt a massive amount of stress because at the time, there was just absolutely no way that I could actually think of being able to take that amount of time off and not freak out, which was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because the only way that I could have made that work was if I got a month's worth of work done before I left. At least that's what I thought, which made me completely freaked out, like I said before, but also hyper focused. And I got super efficient. In fact, I pulled things off my normal list that did not need to be there so that I could fit in the more important things. And then when I went away, I completely unplugged, except, for having my phone with me in case there was an emergency in business. And when I came back, I found that magically everything continued. But now I was more relaxed and my team was more effective because they were forced to figure things out while I was gone to make things work. So every time I'd go away and take time off, it forced me to analyze where I was spending my time so that I became more productive. And it gave my team the time that they needed to become more autonomous. Now, obviously, there were team members who just screwed off while I was gone, which showed me who my assets were and who weren't assets to me, right? And without having gone away on those trips, I might never have really known who those employees were who were dead weight until they actually became viruses inside of my company. So those trips gave me the ability to work less and become far more productive and get rid of dead weight and automatically build leaders inside of my companies. Now, every year, everybody on our leadership team mandatorily takes time off. And this is in addition to their normal vacation days. And there's systems that they follow that allow them to document everything that's going on and everybody's responsibility underneath them. So it's super clear either to me or anybody else in the company what needs to continue while they're gone. And that exercise of documenting that stuff helps that person to become even more crystal clear on what the best use of their time is all the time. And every one of those leaders comes back more productive and their team becomes more autonomous every time. Now, the second thing that you could do that will make it perfectly clear what tasks need to be taken off of your list and that always translates into more growth for your company and bottom line revenue is to be super clear on what the 1 or 2 core competencies are that you have in business. Meaning the 1 or 2 things that you absolutely need to do because you have a measurable impact on the company when you personally do them, because you're so naturally good at those 2 things or 1 thing. Because the biggest challenge that most entrepreneurs have and that everybody on your team has is that they get stuck in doing so many different things during the day, and sometimes 50 or more percent of the things that they're spending time on are not the most valuable use of their time. So they never get the one or two things done that drive the most growth in their department or in your business, which is why so many entrepreneurs feel unfulfilled. We all know what we're naturally good at. When you really think about it, you know what you're good at, and we all know how much smoother our companies grow when we spend the majority of our time doing what we are naturally gifted at. And to do that, we need to surround ourselves with people who are also naturally gifted at the other things that our company needs to scale up. And we need to then stay focused and keep everybody focused. But there's a lot of people in this world who would love just, 5 minutes of your time all the time. But if those interruptions distract you from the one or two things that you need to get done, then those people are stealing from you. So understanding what you're naturally gifted at helps you understand what the best use of your time is right now, this very minute in business. And when you know that, you don't get nearly as distracted by everybody and everything else that's going on around you. Which brings me to the third way to be 100% clear on what tasks you're doing that absolutely are holding you back from growth. And that's to pay for productivity. I mean, I will pay more to be clear or to save time than I will pay for almost anything else in business, both of which make me more productive. And the number one person who I want on my team, who gives me more clarity and saves me more time than anybody else, is an executive assistant. The challenge is that most entrepreneurs who have never had a great executive assistant have no idea what kind of tasks they could immediately take off your list. But when you have somebody like that, you become more productive from day one. I'm not talking about hiring somebody who's fresh out of college or somebody who is completely set in their ways that they try to get you to do things their way, which are the two most common mistakes that entrepreneurs make when they're hiring their first assistant. And then they walk away thinking that an assistant can't help them because they had a shitty experience with their very first assistant. So you kind of have to ask yourself, what do you think would be different in your life if you had somebody on your team who already had a track record of helping entrepreneurs just like you to be more effective? Not somebody that you have to train, but somebody who walks in on day one and you get more done in half a day than maybe you would normally get done in a whole day or 2 days or 3 days or 5 days. I remember a long time ago, a study came out that proved that if you work on a computer, you could get more work done simply by increasing the number of monitors that were on your computer. And I think the stat was something like you get 33% more productive if you have 3 screens instead of just 1 or something like that. So obviously I went out there and I immediately bought 2 more monitors and I got more done by lunchtime that first day than I normally got done in an entire day, which gave me the ability to start another list and get even more accomplished. And after about a month or so of being more productive because I had multiple screens, I bought multiple screens for everybody on my team, and consistently across the board, people were more productive and more effective. And it's the exact same thing with a great executive assistant. If you hire the right one, they will make you more effective immediately. And it's not your job to train them, and it's absolutely not your job to keep stopping what you're doing and answering their questions for 30 or 60 or 90 days with your fingers crossed, hoping that eventually they're going to make you more productive. The right executive assistant has already been there, done that. And they'll automatically take tasks off of your list so that you could focus more of your time on what moves the needle in your business for you. And if you want the exact interview questions that we use when we interview assistants for the leaders inside of my companies, I'll put a link to that in the description. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere other than YouTube, we'll try to add that link somewhere there for you as well, or hit up YouTube and get it there. And that link will give you access to those interview questions for free, because knowing exactly what questions to ask a prospective assistant is the differentiator between you hiring somebody who will make you great or somebody who will sit in front of you and BS their way into your life and waste your freaking time. Go ahead, grab the interview sheet now. And also, if this kind of information is helpful to you, then give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, please, because it goes a long way in helping to grow this channel. And it also puts you at the front of the line to get access to the videos and the paperwork that I share here, because we need more strong entrepreneurs in this world. And this is my way of giving you a head start so that you could scale and reach more people with your message too.